What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to episode 3 of Comic Book Aficionados. I'm Mason AJ.
This is IBM coming at you, YouTube.
This is the Intern.
And today we're going to be talking about all new X-Men.
All new.
We ain't talking about Astonishing X-Men. We're not talking about Uncanny X-Men. We're not talking about new X-Men. We're talking about all new, brand new. Right now, I think it's one of the hottest books in the Marvel now. Maybe even one of the hottest books in Marvel, period.
Honestly, it is one of the greatest reads. You're seeing it from one of the most iconic characters on the X-Men. You're seeing it through Henry McCoy's eyes, through Beast's eyes. He's on his deathbed. His mutation's going out of control. This is the last thing he believes that he has to do on planet Earth to save the mutant race. He literally went back in the past, brought the original X-Men to stop Scott Summers, who was the most popular mutant on the planet.
Right, and this takes place immediately after the fantastic read of Avengers vs. X-Men. A lot of things happened, but at the very end of it, Scott Summers was being held in prison. You know, for pretty much almost
Captain America made a confession.
Captain America. Scott Summers was broken out of prison, and he thinks in his mind that he's tired of mutant oppression, and with the resurgence of the mutant population, because the Phoenix Force restarted that whole race, now he's leading to, in his mind, a mutant revolution. And everybody loves everybody loves and respects Scott Summers so much they kind of don't want to kill him, but they kind of don't know how to stop him. So Beast is like the old Scott Summers, which is actually an idea of Iceman. He was, Iceman's the jokes to the group.
Yeah, Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby was coming out.
He was like, the young version would just smack the new version of Cyclops, and he was like, that's a good idea.
He was like, we should do something about this for once.
Let me break the space-time
continuum.
Like, yo, that's not a bad thing.
And he brings forth the teenage 1963 versions of the original X-Men, which consist of Scott Summers as Cyclops, Henry McCoy as Beast, Bobby as Iceman, Warren as Angel, and Jean Grey, as Jean Grey.
Man, speaking of Jean Grey right now, since they've been brought from the past, I think as itself, she's been put in position of having to be the leader. Since they voted, and it was like, you made them vote, you got to do it. Scott nobody trusted Scott because it wasn't his fault.
You bring up a good point there, Intern, because Kitty Pryde had to show Jean Grey, like, this is the position you put upon yourself. Like, you chose this, now you gotta go through it.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that Scott Summers, wasn't the leader of the group, but people don't trust him because they're so used to dealing with the older version of him,
Mm-hmm.
and they're kind of looking like
the oppressed version.
We know what you did, Scott Summers. You killed Professor X, so like nobody wants to mess with him. So I kind of feel, honestly, I feel bad for him because you can see him as this young, idealistic kid
trying to correct his mistakes from the future.
I just think it's kind of funny that Professor X originally created the X-Men to not only, fight for peace between human beings and mankind, but to stop Magneto. That was their original.
And now you look at it, Magneto's right there beside Scott Summers, and especially when the younger and the older version interacted. And that's another astonishing thing about this book. You look at the interactions between the previous X-Men, the original class, to the new X-Men. Not the new X-Men, but the older versions. Like, this is what's happened to me in life. This is what I've gone through. I mean, my favorite interaction all time, Warren. When Warren meets Angel, that is my best interaction. Yeah. Everybody in the original X-Men, they jumped on board. They were looking like, yeah, save the future. Warren was looking like, where am I at?
No.
This doesn't seem like something I want to do. Warren met Angel. He finally saw what he was in the future. The first thing he noticed was that he had metal wings. He was looking like, how did that happen? Angel came down and was looking like, oh, look at my prototype model. So this is what I used to be like. Oh, it's always fascinating to see what I used to be. And then Warren was looking like, hey, that doesn't sound like talk that I should be having in the future. I don't like my adult self. I need another adult.
Hands down, my favorite point happened in issue 9, which really just hit the shelves, was when Mystique broke into the Raft, the superhuman or super powered criminal jail, and the way she came in, when she was just like, so she disguised herself as the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. and she had Sabretooth. She's like, oh, don't worry, he's held down by Tony Stark's personal adamantium handcuffs. And she got past the guard. She's like, wait a minute. Are there such a thing as adamantium handcuffs? And then Sabretooth was like, so she broke broke into the jail to free Lady Mastermind, who's a villain we haven't really seen, in a while.
Yeah,
so it was kind of a little bit nostalgic just to see her pop back on the scene. Definitely. And the first thing she did was the writers really more so than she did, but they paid a homage to the Marvel zombies because the first thing she did was she used her powers, which are illusions, to cast the Marvel zombies on the security guard. So the security guard, stop! And the next thing he sees Spider-Man go, why Spider-Man? Why?
That was so crazy because, I know for a fact that they really haven't, faced a threat like that in a very long time in that Marvel universe. So just to see that happen, they were looking like, oh my goodness, never again.
My favorite part out of that whole Mystique interaction was the fact that, she just got them to believe her like it was just nothing. And then after that, broke her out of prison. Hey, let's do this. Let's get on with our full day of work. Hey.
Let's get money.
Yeah.
But my favorite interaction so far out of this Marvel Now all new X-Men comic has to be in issue 6, the cover, how they started off with showing Kitty Pryde not replacing Charles Xavier, but her sitting there representing that she's keeping his dream alive. And that was just monstrous. Because Kitty Pryde, they have made her now to where she's not the strongest character, but in a fight against more or less other people, she can hold her own.
Because she's the number 10 martial artist in all of Marvel. She's kind of a big deal.
And then, what made me laugh was when Iceman tried to step to her. He was like,
oh, I fought Magneto. I did this.
I fought the untouchable. She was like, no, I've seen the video. You hit him with a snowball.
Yeah, that's cute, but any 7-year-old child could do that.
But then she was like, well, if you can land one punch with me, I'll leave you alone. And he came out and was like, and he's just like,
stay on the ground.
It was terrible.
But no, even more so was when she kind of taught a lesson to the whole team because they kind of call her Professor K now since she's taken over as Professor X, where she's leading the new team. But she took them to the danger room. She's like, okay, who knows what a Sentinel is? Sentinel is. And everybody was like, and then Jean Grey
was like,
a Sentinel isn't it? And she was just like, that's cute. You know what it is. Now, the real question is, what do you do when you encounter them? And they was like, what? And a whole army of Sentinels
out of nowhere.
Like that. But they didn't know what to do because being the fact they are the original X-Men, they hadn't fought Sentinels yet.
My favorite part of that whole scene was right after they fought the Sentinels, Bobby goes, wait a minute. I remember the Danger Room used to just be a fast-moving red ball that used to just hit us in the face. When did technology get this advanced?
Man, out of that whole scene, I like when Warren thought he was doing something to get this Sentinel, and the Sentinel said, "What? Sure, you can."
Sentinel punch.
Like he wasn't ready for it. He was like, "Oh."
Just that illustration alone, like I felt that. I was looking like, man, I wonder what you just seeing stars and clouds, and you're not even outside.
But while we're so busy watching the newer versions, or the older versions of the new X-Men, the originals. We can't really forget about what's happening with older Scott Summers, Magneto, because they're still kind of living with the repercussions of really messing with fire, that shouldn't be tamed, which was the Phoenix Force. While they're recruiting, students for the Mutant Revolution, they set up their home base, as Weapon X, which is just dynamically, not just ironic, it's super iconic, just to mutants in general. Well, it should be, but so many of them got killed by Weapon X. Yeah, just a mutant hunting legion. Like they literally made weapons to hunt down that species, and then Scott was looking like, yeah, I'm gonna take your home and turn it into a school for more mutants. So therefore, not only did you fail, but now there are more of us.
Yeah, that was the symbol of the revolution.
But, I want to say, but I feel it's like Macbeth. It's almost like real old Shakespearean stuff because you look at Scott and you still like him. You realize he's a little bit misguided.
But you don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah, you don't know how to feel about it because he's still like, what should I do for the mutant race? He really believes what he's doing is the right thing.
Yeah. Which is what makes him so dangerous.
Yeah.
Because he truly believes that he's not wrong. that mutants should revolt, that we should fight the human race. You know who else had those ideas? Magneto.
Who's standing right this
Who was right next to him, who was working hand in hand.
And who kind of put him, not only put him on his path, but corrected him, because he was just like, yeah, it wasn't me, it was the Phoenix Force, you know, it was out of my control. And he was like, Scott, I'm gonna be real with you. You know me. I'm a villain.
I ain't gonna BS you.
I'm evil. You know it. We all know.
I used to think like you, but as an older man and as Magneto, I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't the Phoenix Force. It was you. Because I used to think that, I'm a madman, it's the madness. Like, no. When I blackmailed the world, that was me. When I killed those people, that was me. You know.
You gotta live up to your choices. You can't just come down and be like,
be a man about
the Phoenix did this. I mean, especially in the Marvel Universe, for every person who's been taken over by a cosmic entity and going, I didn't do that. It's like, no. Own up to that.
Yeah. Speaking of owning up, Captain America showed up at the X-Men's front lawn, and he was like, what's going on here? And then him and Beast kind of have a talk. It's like, how dare you mess with the space-time continuum? Like that. And he's like, how could you do this for such selfish reason? And Beast was like, well, Captain, I did it to say the truth.
Yeah, I like how they were in the back just mocking him. Like, this is not really what they're talking about.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Like that Iceman was just like, watch this. I know exactly what Captain's gonna say. I don't understand how you get around with your T4s and your ladies with their arms uncovered.
I mean, I like the fact that Captain America was hesitant. When he walked up to Henry McCoy and was looking like, this blue guy is a little different. He was looking like, Beast, what happened to you? Beast was looking like, I was in the hospital a little bit, had to stabilize my mutation, brush my shoulders off.
Yeah, but now I'm back, bigger and badder than ever. Because before, up until now, Beast kind of had the whole lion thing going on here. He was big, giant, talking cat, like that. But now he's just like, bro. Gorilla
King of jungle. You gotta thank the illustration for that, man.
Right,
the artists are just phenomenal when they showed that whole new perspective on Beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta agree with that, because my favorite thing about the artists in general, Stuart Eminem did a perfect job. Especially, when it came to the first issue where they, first started All New X-Men. They went to the specific scene in 1963's issue 8 when where Scott was sitting in his office writing a letter to Jean, just sitting there doing what he was doing. Came in the room, there's a problem. Beast comes out of nowhere. Hey everybody, I'm from the future.
I remember that this was an iconic moment.
We need to talk.
But even the art style, it was very true to that time frame.
It was on point.
Like that. It looked like Ronald Reagan times. Because even the way they dressed, their hairstyle, it was very.
I mean, and again, you gotta thank Stuart Eminem for that. Then you gotta look to the writer, Brian Bendis, because when he wrote them, they sounded like they came from that time period.
And Brian Bendis' resume is super dope. Brian Bendis wrote House of M. He wrote Uncanny X-Men. He wrote Powers. He wrote Spider-Man. Brian Bendis is a top-notch writer, and combine that with the art style. You know what? I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna say this, and y'all might disagree with me. I'm gonna say that All New X-Men is not only one of the best books in Marvel now, it's one of the best books in comic book history.
Well,
I'm gonna say that. That's what I said.
What now?
We can elaborate it a little bit further, but. We're just gonna let that go. I got a few books that challenge the All New X-Men.
Well, you know what? Bring it up next time, and you bring it up. Bring what you have to say next time. But more importantly, you write down in the comments below what you think the greatest book in comic book history is. What your favorite moments in All New X-Men may be.
Let us know.
And be sure to check out the next issue. I mean, not next issue. The next episode of Comic Book Aficionados.
Issue 4, episode 4,
And just for you readers, you need to check out the latest issue of All New X-Men that's going to come out. Issue 10, BZU2.
America!